this is Steve Bontell with Insurasales, and I'm here with the Insurance Commissioner, Mulready. That's not right, right?
That's right.
Mulready?
Yep.
From the state of Oklahoma. You know, we had Commissioner Doak here a little while ago, who's retired commissioner from Oklahoma. We had a great conversation, shared a lot about what he did today, moderating a panel filled with unbelievable speakers and unbelievable input today from the insurance commissioners, and one of them was Commissioner Mulready. So, Commissioner, you were at this function today. You've been here for many years. What keeps drawing you back to the Hill Country Classic?
Well, I think it's well run, number one. Number two, just the cause, the non-profit, the charity cause of it is, my wife and I have been heavily involved in nonprofits in Tulsa area, have chaired numerous very large fundraising events, so it's kind of our hearts. But then the insurance aspect too, you know, I mean, to be able to sit with some of my colleagues who I respect greatly and answer questions from industry folks that are here. I always welcome those opportunities to address in a more, and I say intimate, but intimate in, I don't know, 50 or 60 or 75 or 100 versus 1,000 people, but to speak to those folks and answer those questions.
You know, it's interesting, great. A lot of times, I've been 27 years now in our business, and mostly on the sales and marketing side, a lot of the carrier levels around our career, and rarely do you get that wonderful, intimate setting to sit down and talk with regulators who are running insurance departments in states that, and we look up to, we want to follow the rules and regulations, and sometimes we realize that they're just people too. And we're all working for the same cause of doing what's right. And it's not just protecting the consumer, it's actually doing the right thing. Would you agree? All the time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you or others heard today, my background, insurance has been my whole life. I've been in insurance sales literally my whole life. And so since I was 23 years old. And so I won't say how long that has been, but a long time. And so I've been there. I'm in agent shoes, and so I think folks in the industry appreciate that background and that history, both on the agent side as well as on the company side. And so I just always welcome those opportunities.
It's a balancing act, isn't it? In our world is you have the carrier, you have the agent, you have the consumer. And ultimately, we all are trying to do the right thing for everybody, but you do need to have regulations. You do need to make sure there is somebody making certain that it's done right. And what we found interesting today in listening to you and all of the other regulators is that you're real people too. You take your job seriously, but you don't always take yourself seriously, just like all of us,
Yeah.
Which makes it kind of fun. And you realize that they're not enemies. It's not Democrat, Republican, Independent. It's us working together as an industry. And I thought that was a really interesting point that I made to a colleague today. That was special. This is why I think more companies and insurance commissioners from all around the country should be at this event.
Yeah, and I think today you saw, again, to your point, we're all trying to do the right thing by the consumer.
Yeah.
Our role is sort of the guardrail of that, right? Like, so if someone is bumping up against, there needs to be a guardrail to bump up against for consumer protection. So, I mean, I'm still in that same space I've been in my whole life. I just happen to kind of be the guardrails now,
when you come here, and I know it's a big ask. There's a lot of things that go on in people's lives, and you say, why the Hill Country Classic? You talk about the wonderful things we do for Sisters with Fibrosis and all of the other charities that are affiliated here. But there's a reason why you keep coming back. If there was one overriding reason why you make this on your calendar every year, what is that?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for me it's kind of all of the above. It's the cause, it's the industry folks, it's the passion that, how many people have I talked to who have been in the business a long time, they care about the industry, they've made a good living in the industry, they care what regulators think, so I think there's no animosity at this meeting. It's more a collaborative conversation, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, that's great too. Rarely, in our world, sometimes we think of like somehow we get a visual that when you think regulators, you think either political or you think right? It's political or and I never got that feeling. What I got was these are your friends. These are people that can really help you in your career and in your business. And I don't think, sometimes if new agents are listening or even carriers, if you're thinking that a regulator isn't really on your side, I think you need to spend an hour or two at this meeting, and you'll find out your perception may be just off a bit.
Yeah, when I came into office, it's a state agency. There's some bureaucracy with that typically. So I launched a silly campaign, but it was, how do we get to yes? If a company wants to offer a new product, let's not dig our feet in the sand and say no. Like, is there a way we can get comfortable and get to yes? And so that's been effective. And so I think we want to improve the industry. We want to grow the industry. I want more folks licensed in our state. I want more products. I want more choices for people in Oklahoma. So that doesn't come by just saying no all the time. It's more, how do we get to yes?
It's what's interesting, sometimes is we think of our elected officials and those in government, and we think sometimes that they really didn't come from us, or they didn't really understand us. And what I loved when you made your announcement and told everybody in attendance today, you're like, I started as an agent.
Yeah.
I was knocking doors. I was sitting at tables, really understanding
making phone calls.
what this business was from day one. And that's what's so special that I don't think a lot of times people understand, right? And I think if you're thinking about understanding what the industry is, I truly think that you have to understand how important the regulator is to the process, right? At not only a state level, but even a national level with the NAIC. Talk about that, if you will.
Yeah, so, the NAIC is the national organization, 56 regulators from around the country. When I first heard that, I thought, wait, there's only 50 states. I paid attention in school. But, you got DC and then 5 territories. But, it's interesting because you're trying to bring together in some sort of coalesce into some agreements on some things, but it's quite different. I mean, you got Oklahoma, you got Mississippi, but you also got California and New York. I mean, just very different from a political and ideological perspective, and that can be difficult. You're just at different ends of the spectrum. I talk about at the NAC trying to come to a lowest common denominator. Okay, what can we agree on these things and march forward with? We don't get everything we want, but what can we agree on? And so, the NAIC has a role in trying to maintain the state-based regulation, and I think that's important because, back to my original point, Oklahoma is not California. I grew up in Massachusetts. Oklahoma is not Massachusetts, and so different states, they need to be able to govern and regulate those states from an insurance perspective as those that fits that state.
Yeah. It's interesting. We were talking, I think, before with the former Commissioner Doak, and we were talking about just how the industry has evolved and how it's constantly changed, and how regulators have just the vision of what they were versus what they are, maybe what they've always been, but we just didn't really understand it. We didn't communicate. Events like this really allow everybody to come together as an industry, something that frankly we should be doing a lot more of.
Yeah, amen.
But what's interesting is that Billy Hill and what he's done for all these years to charity and what this really means to this local community, and I think to the industry, is a little more powerful than I think people that might watch this today know. This is really an opportunity to make really wonderful changes in our business, and it starts by communication. I think everything does.
Yeah.
And I think you did a great job of that today. He did a wonderful job moderating. Like you said, several of the other commissioners there. I mentioned to you before we got on camera, I would love to one day say we've got 20 or more commissioners that are here. Yeah. I mean, you all know each other. You have great relationships with one another. But to actually bring it out and talk now in an informal but constructive and fun way. And I think that's what I think we didn't really see that side. Because when you talk about regulators, you don't say fun all the time, but when you listened to what was said today, I smiled the whole time, we laughed, people were in the audience asking questions, the time you guys took to really sit at tables and get to understand maybe our concerns or our questions, and maybe we thought they were dumb questions, you didn't. You thought they were very interesting questions. So when you get involved with that, that's when you know you got something special. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's good not to take ourselves seriously.
Yeah.
But we're in a serious business.
Yeah,
I mean, and
we are.
we're issuing orders and hundreds and thousands of dollars of $1 million in fines on some things. As a regulator, you've got to toe that line. So it's serious, but I think it's helpful and healthy not to take ourselves too seriously. And so a more intimate environment like this is really helpful for that.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that all the carriers, reps, and companies, whether they're on the P&C side, life and health side, whatever that may be, with captives, anybody that's in the insurance business who really values really getting to understand the power of what a regulator can bring to not only the industry, but to your business, just having a friend, a partner. And that's really what you are. We can't do it without you, and we can't.
Yeah. The average regulator, much to some folks' perception, wants to help agents sell. They want to help agents. We want companies bring products to the market.
Yes.
I mean, we want to facilitate that. We're going to check our boxes, do our due diligence, but I know in my state, we want to bring more choices, more options to Oklahomans.
And you said that today, and I want everybody, if they're going to watch this that are carriers, come down to the Hill Country Classic next year.
Yep.
Don't you think?
Yep.
It's the absolute, I mean, it's my first time. I've wanted to do it for 27 years. And now I'm here and I'm like, why didn't I do this for the last 15?
Yeah.
This has been amazing. And Billy is as humble and as kind as he was today as he was to me 20 years ago. He's a wonderful man. Karen's wonderful. They're just wonderful hosts. If you could leave one last thing, Commissioner Mulready, with all the people here that are going to watch this, why should they, if they're thinking about maybe wanting to come here and they're not really sure, they don't know if they want to take the time or be a part of anything, why should they make this decision to come here next year?
Oh, I think if you're connected to the insurance business in any way, whether you're an agent or you're a company, you're a CPA doing accounting work for insurance companies, this is your space, this is your lane, and it's a great event to learn, to network, and to help a good cause.
That's Commissioner Mulready from the great state of Oklahoma. And Commissioner, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks
for being here.